Now we're going to be talking about spreading the love in the run-up to Christmas and some acts of kindness. We're also talking about some new research carried out by John Lewis. Going to find out more because Peter Grigg, who's the CEO of Homestart, joins us now on the line together with TV presenter Kirstie Allsop. So Peter, we'll start with you. Tell us about this new research from John Lewis. What have we found out?
Well, we found that during the pandemic, we were lucky to see an awful lot of kindness, particularly at the outset. But that as the pandemic has dragged on, people who were surveyed report that they see that kindness dropping off a little. And I guess the most worrying thing from the survey is that the majority of people surveyed think that the kindness won't be around for very long, that it will disappear 6 months after the pandemic is finally and hopefully on its way. So what that tells us really for charities like Homestart and for Fair Share, we're going to have our work cut out, I think, trying to make sure that that spirit of kindness isn't something that is just for Christmas, that actually does go into the new year too.
And at this time of year, we really do need to be spreading the love, and we need the kindness more now than ever before, don't we?
I think so. I think families have been such a shock absorber of everything going on in the pandemic, from homeschooling to, all the economic uncertainty and job uncertainty. It's been in the home where people are making do. And I think families' fuel tanks are empty. Really, Christmas is a time that is normally so full of family connection and meeting all your friends. And it's been a difficult year for so many people. We all feel like that a bit, but if you think of the families who were already struggling and already facing challenges in their life, from isolation to mental health struggles to all those things that you imagine are getting even worse because of the pandemic. And so our focus really is to make sure that kindness does hang around, that it sticks a bit, and actually into the new year we really need to be there for families because they'll need us. They've had too long where they've been left on their own, feeling isolated, and we're worried about the long-term impacts of that for families and for children.
So Kirstie, do you think people have become more kinder since the first pandemic? Is this something good that has possibly come out of all this, of the pandemic?
I hope, Robin, that it's something good that's come out of 2020. I think one of the things that we have to remember is that because of our fear of physical contact now and the masks, we can be detached. And it's really important to push ourselves to look around. I don't know about you, but when I go into shops or on public transport, I'm nervous about obeying the rules, going the right way, going in and out the right door. And I think it's really important that we try and look up and above our masks and see people out there and communicate. Because for a lot of people, the only time they're seeing people is when they go out and do the shopping.
Yeah.
Or when they're pushing a pram around the block. There's been a lot in the press about young people being super spreaders and, children being, a conduit for the virus going around. And that really, really worries me in terms of how people approach young families. Because I think that we sometimes tend not to see a young family as a vulnerable unit. We might even see them as an irritant. And I think that is one of the things with this campaign that we'd want to overcome, is that if you see or know of a young family in your street, or you regularly see someone in a local shop or a local park, we can make friends. We can strike up a conversation. You don't know how isolated that mum is. We don't know how she might be struggling with being at home, being isolated, worrying about money, which is a case for a lot of families at the moment. A lot of young families are worried about money. And I think it's a mindset of thinking, who is that person with children? Are they a neighbour of mine? Are they someone who needs a little act of kindness? Can I help them in some way?
So what ways can we help people in our community then?
I think it probably breaks down into different ways. I've been an ambassador for Homestart for many years. Finding out about the work of Homestart, which you can do via the John Lewis website. They've got a great section there for their Give a Little Love campaign, and it tells you all about the work that Homestart do. That's a very good start. But also taking things into our own hands, and just like I said, looking around, because sometimes just striking up a conversation with someone in a public space, in a shop, or in the street, if someone walks down the street and you know you've seen them before, just giving them a smile and saying hello and can make a huge difference to someone's day. The other day I had one of those busy days where you just end up not actually seeing someone, and then I was in a taxi and I found myself chatting away to the taxi driver, and at one point I thought I was going to cry because it was just so nice to be having an actual chat with a person that wasn't on a Zoom or on a phone. And it's not like I live alone, but you know, we've all, I mean, much as we all might love our families and our children and everything, the conversations with people outside our immediate family have been extraordinarily limited in the last year.
So what's 2020 been like for you? Has it been a busy year? Has it been a really weird year?
I'll be honest, Robin, I found it a very weird experience, 100%. But I've been very lucky in that in the first lockdown, we were able to make craft shows from home. All the crew had to self-isolate before they came to us, and then they all were staying with us, and we were feeding them and filming during the day. So it was kind of manic, and that was a real fantastic time because I felt productive, and I think a lot of people are struggling with not having a daily routine. Then there was a period when it was incredibly quiet. You know, I was having the same lockdown experience as some people, obviously with a garden and a larger house. So not the same experience of those people who didn't have outside space and had small accommodation. And then we started filming again, and we've been out and about. And that's when I've really realized the impact on hospitality. And those people who are in hospitality jobs are amongst the most poorly paid. And there's some stuff in the papers today saying that as a result of lockdown, some people are better off. But that is a very niche group. For the vast majority of people, they're really worried about money. I was talking to Peter yesterday. I was talking to Peter this morning, and he was saying that he's seeing people at food banks who've never been to food banks before and didn't ever think they'd be in that situation where they were needing help to feed their families. But that is a reality now for a lot of families. So the Home Start volunteers, the work they do in helping families apply for the benefits that they need, helping families communicate with the schools, helping families, you know, make up lost education. That is really important. It's why I'm so pleased that John Lewis and Waitrose have hooked up with Home Start, because it's such a brilliant organisation.
Peter, tell us a little bit more about the Give a Little Love campaign.
The Give a Little Love campaign was a result of John Lewis and Waitrose wanting to find a way to look at Christmas a bit differently than they normally do. They've identified two charities in Home Start and Fair Share that are really working in local communities across the UK, including in Belfast. We have some great Home Starts across Northern Ireland. And it's really all about trying to recognise how far during the pandemic the communities have travelled together, and the kindness that people have shown to each other. You know, there was certainly at the outset a lot of adrenaline around it all, and we were to some extent excited to be involved like that. But obviously it's got tiring as it's gone on, and we're really worried about the isolated families in particular who don't have friends and families around them, and actually need that help, including new parents. So what the Give a Little Love campaign does is show that actually kindness is certainly something we should be concentrating on at Christmas, but we need it to stick. We need to be kind to each other, to our communities, and particularly to those families who are struggling for a long time yet. And I think if we can do that, then this campaign would have been a success. It'd be brilliant if it brings in money. It'd be brilliant if it brings in volunteers. If anyone's interested, please do look out for ways to volunteer with Home Start in your communities. But ideally, what we want to do is create that spirit of kindness that goes on for some time yet, because the tail of the pandemic will hit the most struggling families the most, and that's where we need to be looking into the future.
I'm glad Kirstie mentioned food banks there, because we need these more now than ever before, don't we? And I know here in Belfast, our big concert venue, the SSE Arena, that's being used at the minute for storing food for food banks.
Absolutely. We see this in our work across Home Start and working with Fair Share. The spike in demand for food banks is really scary. One of the things we've also seen, obviously, with food banks, you don't always get access to all the food that one might need for a healthy diet. And actually, food banks do their best to make that happen. But I was at a Home Start on Friday, and they were reporting the impact on actually poor diet over the pandemic period, particularly on low income families. And that comes out in all sorts of ways. So we see problems of obesity. We've seen problems of dental hygiene. There are young children losing their teeth before it's years before their adult teeth are expected to grow, and that has such a profound impact on their speech development, on their confidence, on their well-being. And so things like that, which we don't see so much of, we don't hear a lot about of, it's happening. It's because of the pandemic, and food banks are one part of the fabric, and they're so important, and so we need to get behind them and help make sure that foods is going to families, including those families who aren't experienced in asking for help. And we need to make sure that people are actually okay to put their hand up and ask for help, and there isn't a stigma around it, because there'll be lots of families who will be struggling, and that's where we all really need to come around each other and make sure that we're being as kind as possible moving into the future. We'll need it. We'll really need it, Robin.
And if people want some more information, what websites can they check out?
The first place to look would be on the John Lewis Give a Little Love campaign's website. If you go there, and if you're able to donate any money, that's brilliant, because it'll be match funded by John Lewis and Waitrose. So that would be the first place. If you're interested in getting involved in Home Start or in Fair Share, then we have our own websites, and it is worth diving in, particularly if you're looking for volunteering opportunities. So I'd really recommend doing that. And thanks to everybody who already does that, because it's the power of volunteers that actually keeps Home Start going and keeps us alive and able to support families and children.
So Peter and Kirstie, it's been great talking to you. Just to finish off, Kirstie, what's your plans for Christmas this year?
I'm having a quiet Christmas with my two sons and one of my stepsons. But just to come back to what Peter said about teeth and speech development, he's quite right. When I was a little girl, I knocked out my two front teeth, and I was called Kirstie Allsop for all of my primary time, and it wasn't much fun. Bigger kids used to come up to me and get me to say my name, and I had a terrible lisp as a result of not having those two front teeth. And I was fine. My mum got me some help because she had the wherewithal to do that. But something as simple as a speech impediment that comes from not having your teeth can really blight your social skills and your education.
Kirstie and Peter, thank you so much for joining us.